Hey, welcome to the Yellow Submarine. In this video, we'll be talking about how the Beatles got together and became the best-selling band of all time. Before jumping back in time to the era that the Beatles existed, kindly subscribe to this channel and turn on your notifications for awesome updates from this channel. Done? Let's go. The Beatles, the name that was on everybody's lips from 1960 to 1970. In these 10 years, the band rocked the world, created history, and planted love in so many people's hearts. So who are the Beatles? How did they become the best-selling band of all time? It all started in March 1957 when a 16-year-old boy named John Lennon formed a group with several of his friends from Quarry Bank High School. The group was a skiffle band named the Quarrymen, previously known as the Blackjacks. John Lennon was the son of a merchant seaman. John and the Quarrymen were to perform at events at a church fete at St. Peter's Church in Woolton, Liverpool. It was there that the Quarrymen's bassist introduced Lennon to a classmate, Paul McCartney. Paul McCartney, who was 15 years old, was set to join in with the band that night. Paul McCartney was the firstborn of his parents and his father was a band member. It's safe for you to say McCartney was born into music. Eventually, after playing with Lennon's Quarrymen, he got a permanent position in the band. McCartney did well in his preparations towards events of the band, but he experienced stage fright and couldn't perform well. Due to that performance, George Harrison was brought in to boost the band's prowess. Harrison joined the band when he was 15 years old as the lead guitarist. George Harrison brought in a new vibe to the band, and his performance shaped the group's early sound. The Quarrymen were performing at local parties and family events, such as the reception for Harrison's brother's wedding. They also did some professional gigs in venues like Hippodrome in Manchester and Caspar Coffee Club in Liverpool. In 1959, John Lennon got into the Liverpool College of Art, and his friends from Quarry Bank left the group, and this changed the band's name to Johnny and the Moondogs. In the Liverpool College of Art, Lennon met Stuart Sutcliffe, a painter who hailed from Scotland. Stuart Sutcliffe was brought into the band to play bass. Sutcliffe and Lennon are always credited for the invention of the most popular name of the band, the Beatles. It was said that the two boys had a fascination with group names with double meanings, and they liked Buddy Holly's band The Crickets. Looking at the crickets that they liked, it means an insect and a sport. There were numerous reports on how they coined their name. Some said the initial name was Beatles, and some said that John Lennon came up with Beatles. One thing was evident, it was when Stuart Sutcliffe joined the band that they got the name. The Beatles was coined from the combination of Beatles and beat. John Lennon and Paul McCartney were closer than other members of the band. The two boys were seen together playing acoustic sets in any space they felt at ease. Their friendship later formed a singer-songwriter partnership in the future of the band. Many of their recorded songs were written by these two young chaps. Lennon, McCartney, Harrison and Sutcliffe were performing at venues including social clubs and dance halls around England and Scotland between 1960 to the first half of 1961. During this period, the band had a problem. None of the members had an excellent command of drumming, so they employed lots of drummers most of the time, different drummers for different events. Paul McCartney decided to step up as a permanent drummer for the group and he tried his best, but he was only used as a drummer for only one event. They performed at a strip club in Upper Parliament Street. By August of 1960, the band had gotten a drummer named Pete Best and they moved to Germany. Lennon, Harrison, Best, Sutcliffe and McCartney were seen performing at the Indra Club, the larger Kaiser Keller and the Top 10 Club in Hamburg. It was in Germany that the band developed and the Germans were enjoying the Beatles. In December 1961, the band was approached by Brian Epstein, who wanted to manage the band. In January 1962, Epstein got a 5-year contract and he was later known as one of the fifth Beatles and the man who discovered the Beatles. Stuart Ferguson Victor Sutcliffe died on the 10th of April, 1962 in Hamburg, aged 21. Epstein arranged a meeting for the boys with George Martin, a producer that made comedy records with Bernard Cribbins. The boys failed to impress the man, but he gave the boys a chance to do better. He signed the Beatles to EMI's Parlophone label. He enlightened them about their blunders, and this prompted Epstein to fire Pete Best. Then, Richard Starkey, popularly known as Ringo Starr, came on board and sealed what's known as the Beatles forever. With everybody now in place, the band worked earnestly and released their first album in January 1963. The album was titled Please Please Me and it topped the UK Albums Chart. This was just the beginning of their greatness. The album was voted 39th on Rolling Stone's list of the 500 greatest albums of all time in 2012. By the end of 1962, the band had improved a lot. Epstein even told the band at this time that if they want to go places and be superstars, they need to change how they do, they need to be professional. Mind you, the band had been going on tours and they had been enjoying warm receptions wherever they went. Exactly 8 months after the release of their first album, the Beatles dropped another album titled with the Beatles. The album received advance orders of 270,000 copies and sold about 500,000 copies in a week. With the Beatles was greater than Please Please Me. Michael Erlewine described the LP as a sequel of the highest order, one that betters the original. The album didn't only catch the attention of Erlewine, but also William Mann of the Times, who said that John Lennon and Paul McCartney were the outstanding English composers of 1963. The Times even featured lots of articles where William Mann analysed the tracks on the album, hence giving it more respect. The album became the second album in UK chart history to sell 1 million copies. The nickname, the Fab Four, was traced to this album, and it all started when Tony Barrow, the band's press officer, called the band the Fabulous Foursome. With all the hit tracks the band was dropping in Europe, the Americans didn't have the opportunity to enjoy it. This was because Capitol Records, an EMI's American subsidiary, refused for more than a year to release their first 3 singles. With this fiasco going on, the band contacted an independent US label, VJ, and they were able to release some of the songs in 1963. With the help of VJ, the band did an album titled Introducing the Beatles. The album contained most of the songs of Parlophone's Please Please Me, but a management shakeup led to the album not being released. This was a great setback for the boys that wanted to taste America's greatness. The boys weren't alone, as Brian Epstein came to rescue of the team. He sealed a deal with Capitol Records, and the boys were ready to take on America, in which the great Elvis Presley lived. Their America's success story started when disc jockey Carol James of AM radio station WWDC in Washington DC laid his glorious hands on the British single I Want to Hold Your Hand in mid-December 1963 and began playing it on air. On December 26, the band released I Want to Hold Your Hand, and over 1 million copies of it were sold. By 1964, half of Americans that love rock were already dancing to the Beatles. In February 1964, they got their first live US performance on The Ed Sullivan Show, and they garnered over 72 million views in about 24 million households. This prompted Nielsen rating service to put out that the show got the largest audience that had ever been recorded for an American television program. Though their first visit to America was around the time America in particular and the world in general were mourning the assassination of President John F. Kennedy. Paul McCartney once said, "We came out of nowhere with funny looking hair, looking like marionettes or something." He continued, "I got people like Dan Aykroyd saying, 'Oh man, I remember that Saturday night. We didn't know what had hit us, just sitting there watching Ed Sullivan's show.'" He concluded that up until then there were jugglers and comedians like Jerry Lewis, and then suddenly, the Beatles. The band later went back to the US and toured the country for 3 years. They made a huge success, and it was termed the British Invasion. Invasion? Yes, it was an invasion because the band that originated from Liverpool created and smashed records in America. In 1964, the band occupied 12 positions on the Billboard Hot 100 singles chart, including the top 5. Never has such happened in the history of Billboard. They created a way for other British beat groups and pop acts such as Petula Clark, Dave Clark 5, The Animals, The Kinks and the Rolling Stones to achieve success in America. In June-July 1964, the band embarked on a world tour which consisted of visits to Hong Kong, New Zealand, Denmark, Australia and the Netherlands. In August of that same year, they did concerts in 23 cities in the United States. While in the US, the Beatles met with Bob Dylan, who is often regarded as one of the greatest songwriters of all time, the Beatles received respect and love from everybody in the world then. Even Queen Elizabeth II didn't let their success go unnoticed, as she bestowed on them members of the Order of the British Empire, MBE, in 1965. In the history of the Beatles, they released 21 studio albums, with 12 of them in the UK, 5 live albums, 36 EP singles, 68 music videos, 63 singles, 54 compilation albums, and 17 box sets. They created their label named Apple. The band ruled the rock world for 10 years from 1960 to 1970. They did 4 films and have numerous documentaries about them. In 2010, the Beatles' 1966 album Revolver was named the top pop album of all time by the Vatican's official newspaper. They got the title the best-selling band of all time in 2012 when it was recorded that they have sold over 600 million units. Let it be known that the Beatles received 7 Grammy Awards, including Album of the Year in 1967 and numerous nominations. In 2014, the Recording Academy presented the Beatles, The Night That Changed America, a Grammy Salute, a TV special celebrating the 50th anniversary of the Beatles' landmark debut on The Ed Sullivan Show. It featured performances by Paul McCartney and Ringo Starr, Katy Perry, Ed Sheeran, Stevie Wonder and Maroon 5 among others. They won the 1971 Academy Award for Best Original Song Score for the film Let It Be, 1970. In the US, they have 6 diamond albums, 6 gold albums, 16 platinum albums, and 20 multi-platinum albums. In the UK, they have 1 silver album, 4 platinum albums, 4 multi-platinum albums, and 8 gold albums. In 1988, they were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Up until today, the Beatles are recognized as the most significant and influential rock music artists of the last 60 years. In 2001, UNESCO announced that every 16th of January would be used to celebrate the Beatles. That's how the skiffle band of 1957 became the world's treasure. We've come to the end of this video. Hope you enjoyed the history of the Beatles. Do you have any band or musical celebrity you want us to look up for you? If you do, drop it in the comment section. Kindly subscribe to this channel and turn on your notifications so that we can notify you when we have a new video for you. Thanks!